Which record do you feel like is the bigger one? Jump Around or What It's Like?
I kind of got it. Album, like if you went by album sales, you would think you'd say What It's Like, because I sold like almost 4 million records of that at the time. I mean, it's probably an extreme. So I don't know what all that counts for now. And House Pain went platinum. And that single went platinum. But Jump Around, I mean, it's got to be in the top 10 all-time licensed hip-hop songs, if not higher. I mean, I haven't done any science. I'm not trying to be. I'm just saying, like, it's played at every goddamn sporting event. It's bananas, man. It's one of them things that you have to kind of almost disconnect yourself from to even understand it. Wow.
It's the Almanac of Rap show. I got opinions and they all factual. No news, just information that you won't be able to use unless you're at a dinner party trying to impress who's in attendance with endless tidbits of nonsense. We're gonna have a good time, I promise. YouTube rabbit holes, ready deep dives, pulling out old interviews from the archives. Styles, fads, trends, all of that. It's the Almanac of Rap.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Almanac of Rap. I'm your host, Donwill, and today's guest is a multi-platinum, genre-bending artist whose award-winning catalog houses hits and anthems. Give it up for Everlast. What's good, man? How you feeling?
My man, sunny day. It ain't too hot.
The weather over there looks great. Our weather over the weekend, I'm in New York. We had those Canadian wildfires. Bit of smoke over here.
That's wild. Yeah, I'm experienced in fires and smoke.
Thank you for that segue, because your album, Embers to Ashes, it's kind of ironic that was the backdrop that I was writing this interview in, because that album addresses directly the wildfires, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Oh, the one song in particular is pretty directly about my experience with the Woolsey Fire. We lost our house in that fire. I mean, the whole album is about this just kind of storm of a few years that kind of came along. I kind of considered myself done, like almost retired, but so the whole album is just dealing with from COVID to house burning down to divorce to healing. It's kind of like a journey.
Based on title alone, embers are still burning fire, like it's still like some light, and then ashes is just what remains. I guess my question about the title is, it doesn't really sound, I won't even say hopeful, it just sounds final. It sounds like this is what remains after the embers of a fire. With this being your first album in 8 years, and you said it's just in the wake of loss and divorce and all this other stuff. What made this the right moment for the album for you?
Usually, I mean, I'm regardless. Like I said, even though I just said I was pretty much resigned in the fact that I was kind of done making records and touring and stuff, and cool with it. I always got a guitar in my hands when I'm in the house. I'm always just toying around with ideas, and and sooner or later, there's a collection of ideas that look like songs, and I was kind of in the state of like, well, let's see if anybody wants these songs, when my good friend, old dear friend, Divine Styler, just said, look, man, I've been listening to country radio, driving my lady back and forth to work, and I hear a whole lot of Whitey Ford Sings the Blues going on out there. You should go out there and make a record. And I was like, I knew it all just kind of fell into place. Wolf was like one of the few cats I really know well out there. And we had spoken once many years ago about perhaps doing some work together. And I just called him up, said, you want to make a record? Next thing I know, I'm in Nashville, and, we're writing like maniacs. So it was fun. It was a good experience. For years I've had the MC mentality about songwriting. I've never been one to co-write lyrics. This is the first album I kind of allowed that to happen.
Yeah.
But the cats that Wolf brought in understood the assignment, man. We talked. They listened to my life. They heard some of the seeds I had planted already on a few things, and it just grew from there. And it became a real cool experience. And having Wolf produce it all was kind of I didn't want to do all that work. I've been producing my last 4 or 5 albums, and it's a lot of work. And we probably wouldn't even been talking about this record for another 2 years if I
Yeah.
did. You know what I mean? So I just going there, putting it on a clock in a studio, like old school, paying the bills, and there was a work ethic involved to it. So it was kind of like we're either going to do it or we're not going to do it, and we just got out there and got it done.
I would imagine there was a bit of like a group therapy feel to it, being that you said you had co-writers and you're letting Wolf do the production, whereas you're kind of like more of a, the hip hop mentality of if you don't write it, it ain't real type of vibe. My question about that was, how difficult was it to hand over some of these more vulnerable topics that you were dealing with to other people, or was it like this catharsis thing where these are your friends and associates that you're like dealing with on this thing, and it becomes their story? And like the same way a person gives you good advice and you walk with it, they might have gave you like catharsis and therapy in that way.
Yeah, I also the latter more definitely than the former.
Yeah.
And I'm 56 years old, bro. It's like kind of get over yourself time and get it right, or you're just gonna be fucked up till you're done. And you'll be right back here doing the same run again. You know what I mean? If I got to make this run again, I want to make it on a different degree or level, whatever that may be. But I feel like there's passage rights, and I've earned a bunch of them on this run. So I'm in it to win it, and that's it. That when these guys, Wolf already being a friend, like the guys that came in and helped write were a guy named D Ray and a guy named Chief, and they came up on Whitey Ford, so they already spoke that language to a certain degree. Like the barometer or litmus test was, in my mind, would I actually have said
Right.
that way? And more times than not, the answer was yes. And that so it just
Right.
the trust came quick with it all.
That's the thing about writing in general, is that in the hip hop space, I find that I enjoy collaboration and co-writes. I think that a rich room makes a rich full song. And like I also understand that within the, as they say, ghostwriting world of hip hop, when you have somebody writing for you, like if that person doesn't know how to embody you, then the listener, even if they don't know, they can tell. But that's like more of a purely hip hop thing. When it comes to songwriting,
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't believe in the ghostwriting part because I'm the first person that'll throw the flowers at the cat that wrote that. Oh, that line was this guy's. You know what I mean? Or I'll also be the first one to be like, oh no, that one was me.
yeah.
Yes.
Well, and like that's the fun thing about your career is you've been around long enough to see some of these like tropes and mores kind of be broken. You know what I'm saying? Like you were active in the game when stealing it, when like borrowing somebody's style or taking somebody's line was like a criminal offense. Whereas now, like everybody, if you don't kind of have the similar sound, you're like not in the in crowd in a way. But I think that's very interesting about your career and kind of cool, like the longevity of it.
Yeah, I mean, the actuality of that is just that in the beginning, that was, worthy of ass whoopings. Like
Yeah.
sounding like somebody else or taking somebody else's stuff, unless it was somehow in actual homage to that person and being obviously, that way. But now, it's hard to blame the artists in some fashion because they're chasing the doorway, and the doorway is this algorithm that's determining what's popular and narrowing that further and further and further every time by determining what's popular. It's like,
Yeah.
well, we think this is what's going to be popular and stay popular when it's like, shit like that changes on a dime in real time. Should we just jump in? Wait a minute. Make sure that bad boy's tuned right. All right, here we go.
Yeah. And I want to circle back to something you said earlier about you were ready to hang it up. Like what was the moment where you're like, I think I could walk away right now?
I think, well, it was a combination of things, man. Starting with COVID, You know, that kind
Mm.
of slowed everything down. I have two daughters. At the time, they were whatever it was, 6, 7, and 4. So, and COVID had me around so much, I kind of got used to that and realized how much every time I left, even if it was for a month, you come back to different people,
Yeah.
not in a bad way, but like you missed a lot.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to, minimize that. Um, after the house burned and I got divorced, and I just started trying to refine, just like, all right, where's my joy right now? Because I didn't have much. I found it wasn't tied up in the business of music, and that the business of music took very well good care of me as it was. I don't do this because I have to anymore,
Right.
and haven't for quite a long time. But like, it really just dawned on me, like I could sit down, and that's what I felt like doing until something said don't. I think the first song I wrote for this album, I don't know, have you heard the album?
Yeah, I got to hear a couple of tracks. What was the first one
Oh,
you wrote?
it was a song called Rubber Bullets.
I
Um,
did hear Rubber Bullets. Yes, Rubber
yeah,
Bullets is one.
that's the first one. Well, that's the first song I wrote that's on this album. I probably had a few other ones that weren't quite it or that, but that's the one that when I brought it to the sessions in Nashville, everybody was like, "Whoa." And I was like, yeah, it just happened that night. It was the night of the George Floyd riots and all that. And this song appeared in front of me. I look at them like little creatures you got to capture, train them to stay near.
Little Pokemons.
I don't write them down. Yeah, I don't write them down. So it's like, if I can't remember, that's why, like, if I do write a song, I'm up all night because I got to sing it 200 times.
Yeah.
Because I've woken up many times where it's like, oh, that song I wrote last night, and then it's gone.
But I also want to touch on something else, like that you brought up. Like, I really think that nobody, and I mean nobody, is really thinking about how much the pandemic changed us. Like, I think about this shit all the time, man. Like, so I'm glad that you actually took some time to grapple with it, because a lot of people, we just dove head first into life, man. And like, some of us are like kind of like having tremors of the trauma. Like, why does this feel so weird? It's because the world was split the fuck open for like so long, you know?
It's definitely one. It definitely was a ripple in the timeline. So
Yeah.
I think it did a little something different to everybody.
You said Yelawolf produced this album. I saw that he produced this album. And you guys have been friends for a while now. How did the relationship come to be in the first place?
Just industry kind of meet up. I met him, I think, the first time at the Warped Tour, and just whenever Pop the Trunk, I think, was that 2010.
Long relationship. Yeah, that is like 2010.
Like, I met him, and we exchanged, pleasantries and complimentary, language, and then it was kind of like bump heads here and there. He became friends with like Travis, and they did work, and I knew Travis, and then we would just cross each other's paths and hang out more, and then at one show in Berlin, he just happened to mention, hey, one day I would love to cut a record with you, which, I didn't realize till much later that he wanted to produce a record. I thought he wanted to hey, let's do a rap record together or something. But like, it all came full circle. That's why, I don't know. That's how life goes with me.
And a true full circle moment for me, Yelawolf was signed to Shady Records at one point, and it's like pretty well documented that you had beef with Eminem. So for me, I know that we've gotten closure on that thing a while ago, and like I'm not asking you to like re-exhume the body or whatever, but I'm just assuming that it's safe to say that beef has been and is long since dead. And
a while ago, a long time ago.
Yeah.
I think the only time I really ever spoke on it was on Talib's podcast. But something happened where he said something after a long time, but I couldn't find any disrespect in it. I was like, that sounds almost complimentary. And we have some really good friends in common. And one of them was like, no, he's all good. And then I think, not that long ago, he big upped House of Pain, and there's a mutual respect. I never
Man,
said that guy wasn't one of the greats. I never, we had our little rap beef, man. Like we had an
yeah.
exchange. One of us took umbrage, and we do what rappers do. You know what I mean? That's all it was.
It's all in the sport, but I'm just telling you as a fan, it feels really good to hear that. You know what I'm saying? Because like y'all are like pillars. You know what I'm saying? Y'all are icons. You guys have never actually verbally spoken. It's just been word of mouth stuff. That was my
Not since that. No, no,
okay.
no. But it's not an avoidance. I'm a fucking hermit, man. Like honestly, for these last decade at least. I mean, and I'm pretty sure he's a fucking hermit.
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard for hermits to link. So,
Two hermits in their hovels hiding out. You know what I'm saying? Not hiding out, but having a good time, so to
oh,
speak.
I'm hiding the fuck out, bro. I'm hiding the fuck out. Trust me, I got no problem with it.
I'm not even gonna say nothing bad about Eminem, cause way too much stuff rhymes with rock, right? But Eminem don't even like his own mama. So Lord knows what he'll say about your black ass, okay?
I want to keep bringing up some old shit. The Rhyme Syndicate is a crew that doesn't get spoken about nearly enough. As far as hip hop crews go, they were super diverse. And from what I read and what I remember, it was even bi-coastal, which is still kind of unheard of. It doesn't really happen that often. I just want to know more about like the Rhyme Syndicate in general. Like, how did you get down with them? And are you still in touch with, well, clearly you're in touch with Divine, but any other members?
Me and I speak once in a while. I've exchanged texts or Instagram with DMs, whatever, with Donald D a few times. Again, I'm a hermit, man. But how I got down was with Divine Styler and a cat named Bilal Bashir. They were working together, and they were already kind of involved with him. Divine was an amazing graffiti artist too, or is still probably. And that's kind of what I was into at the time. And I was trying to just get like styles from him, like just kind of tag along and do whatever. And so when we would go out, whatever, running, doing some paint or hanging out while before, so and everybody's snapping or bagging on each other, or rapping. I'd rap to make jokes a little bit. And he was the one who pulled me aside and said, like, yo, you could actually rap, man. Like, you should do a demo. And I made that demo with them. They played it for Ice. And I wound up on that compilation record, So, again, like, it wasn't like this active, like, I'm chasing this dream of being, it was like something that happened. And I immediately was like, oh, I could do this. Let's try it.
And you're clearly part of Divine Styler's legacy in that he brought you into the fold for Rhyme Syndicate, and your career went on to be what it is. If you could speak a little bit on Divine Styler's just importance and influence in general, because he's a name that I don't feel like gets enough credit in general. And when you listen to his early catalog, he's doing stuff that if it dropped now, it would be mind blowing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, he was living in like 2131.
Yeah.
in the greatest way possible. The first record, Word Power, was just insanity. I mean, I still to this day think there's a song on there called Tongue of Labyrinth, and the first lyrics are 14 billion cells of additional doors, a year is a wall, 365 days tall, with my tongue on the floor, my third eye flies over the top and watch the Running Man contest, it don't stop. I'm like, this is fucking like 1989, dude.
Whew.
And this is the guy who basically, beyond the scat cat baddie rat, that taught me how to rhyme like scheme. So he was just, and then the second album was just so insanely beyond what most cats were ready for or could understand. The whole Mystic Sheep Drink Electric Tea was, in a weird way, a precursor to like what I did with Whitey Ford, not genre wise, but like just saying like, fuck it all.
Yeah.
I'm just going to do what I want and try it. He was making punk rock records and industrial weird rap records. Yeah, he was like a Coltrane in the world of hip hop. At some point, it's going to be understood, whether it's interviews like this or me telling it, who this guy was and who he is. Still, he's not gone, but like his legacy. There's a lot of cats that I'm not going to say stole from him, but like definitely fed off his energy and ate well.
Was he down with Good Life Cafe and the Freestyle Fellowship?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He was down with all those guys, and
Okay.
I don't know if he was like there all the time freestyling, but he was definitely like Micah and all those dudes were close with Divine.
because he fit in so well with that set, and like having him as part of a rhyme syndicate is what blew my mind. I'm like, yo, I don't know what Ice-T was on, but he was building some amazing shit. It was just like so many different styles and so many different people represented within that, you know.
He was just hustling, man, and he had a good ear. He knew what he liked, but he was trying to be a rap Clive Davis, at that moment, with the whole
Yeah.
Rhyme Syndicate records. I mean, I truly believe that that was the goal, and my career wouldn't exist if he didn't sign me to my first little 12-inch and album deal.
Shouts to Ice and shouts to Divine Styler.
Everybody who wasn't in NWA and wasn't on Delicious Vinyl was Syndicate. That's how we broke LA down. I had Everlast. I signed Lord Finesse because I used to come out here to the New Music Seminar, and he was the baddest freestyler I'd ever heard. I had a cat named Divine Styler. I had DJ Muggs, which turned out to be Cypress Hill. I had Dub C, who now is out with Cube, who had a group called Low Profile with DJ Aladdin, who was the world champion. One of my cats in the group, TDF, is named now Tim Story, who's one of the biggest black directors in Hollywood, did all the Fantastic Four movies. So these were all my crew.
How did you link up with Cypress and the Soul Assassins to form House of Pain and all that?
It started with meeting Muggs. Muggs and 783 were like almost signed with Rhyme Syndicate, and then they got their deal with Geffen and decided to do that deal. But in that little space of time, because we were both white, like people tried to always be like, you should DJ for him, and he should DJ for him, and we were always kind of like, that's just why. We weren't like best friends at that moment or anything, but we knew each other and because of hip hop. So after the whole Rhyme Syndicate thing, when I kind of parted ways with that deal, we bumped into each other because DJ Lethal was dating a girl that was roommates with a girl Muggs was dating. So we all kind of posseed up and went to the Reggae Fest at the Greek one summer, and Be Real was there. That was the day I met him, and we all went back to this person's apartment, and they played us the first Cypress album, and I think we spent the rest of the day rhyming to Muggs's beats. And I hadn't been that affected by an album since probably Nation of Millions.
Wow.
Like hip hop had kind of got a little boring at that moment. That was like a slap in the face of like everything that I wanted to hear. A little bit of Molly, a little bit of Critical Beatdown, a little bit of, Bomb Squad, like all slapped together into one sound that Muggs kind of found. And on the way home that day, I guess Be Real was telling Muggs, oh, you got to fuck with that dude. And they were about to go on tour, and somehow we wound up in the studio, made a few demos, and Jump Around was among them. And it just kind of, again, like, I'm in the right spot at the right time,
Yeah, man.
I'm blessed.
And it's crazy that Jump Around was one of the first demos because that record is a monster. And it'll be here. It'll last forever. You know what I'm saying? Shouts to your name, Everlast. But for the longest time, I thought you were from Boston because of House of Pain's Irish roots. And it made me wonder, how were you guys received in Ireland? Like, I'm assuming you guys were like the Beatles over there.
When it first popped off, yeah. I mean, I remember getting there and walking around Dublin and cats running up and giving us things like gifts and saying "welcome home" type shit. It was
It had to be a little odd.
It was like in a great way, but just odd. Like it was surreal. Like,
yeah,
welcome home. Wow, we really tapped into something. But the jersey was just a shout out to, like, I felt like I was the dopest white boy in the game. So I wore a Larry Bird jersey. That's kind of all it really meant. But then it became like an adopted kind of theory that we were from there. So we just stopped arguing about it or saying we weren't. You from Boston, right? Yeah. We're from Boston.
Back then, media moved so slow. So it wasn't like you could get on Instagram or somebody could like deep dive. It was just whatever lore people invented is what the lore was. So,
that's cool sometimes.
It's very cool.
One of the fucking greatest things about Cypress was nobody knew what the fuck it was. Like the blurry pictures of them. Like it was just a record with like three blurry guys and a factory or something. Like it
Yeah,
was.
and Be Real was his, like the voice that he used to rap was it was definitely like hearing something that you had never heard before, and that you knew you were experiencing something special.
Be Real's my brother to this day. We hang out weekly when we're both in town, and I get he's another dude. I'll sit here and be like, hey, without that one moment of him being in Muggs' ear, Muggs, what does Jump Around happen? I don't know.
House of Pain was one of the first groups to really push the subgenre of rap rock in a way. Did you know you were creating a lane at that time, or did it just feel like you were saying right place, right time, just doing things?
I gotta say that Danny played a huge part in all the punk rock like vibe and influence because I learned most of what I know about punk rock and stuff through Danny. Like I was never big on it like in its moment. I wasn't a fan of Bad Brains till kind of Bad Brains had already happened.
Yeah.
Um, that type thing. But like, we knew nothing about Sub Pop Records. That was Danny saying like we should do this little collab with this little indies, because grunge was just starting to bump. He was aware of all that. He was super fan of everything. The next level of that is me getting that part in that horrible movie, Judgment Night, but we got to kind of pitch the soundtrack.
Yeah.
That's when I came into the picture and said, look, we know all these bands right now. Let's get all our rap friends, all these bands in studio and make a crazy record. And I know that spawned a lot of bands. Like so that's cool. I mean, it's not like it was some genius shit. It was mash rock and rap together. We weren't the first ones to think of it. We just were there at the right place, right time when the two were ready to really collide with each other.
I know it wasn't the first time it had occurred, but it definitely felt like the first time it was properly documented in a way. I was around when it was happening, but when I look back, I'm like, oh shit, that was kind of like the nexus point.
The reason that I say that it was ready to happen is like it was just a bunch of bands and rap groups that were fans of each other that were allowed to do whatever the fuck they wanted. And after that, it was all like we needed to sound like this or that or whatever happened, But a lot of we approached ours completely different than most people approach theirs. Helmet made a song. We went in and took it, sampled it, and chopped it up and made our own, and then we glued the two together. Some groups just had a song written and the rappers just rapped over it. Some groups went in and wrote them from scratch together. My favorite song on that album is the Teenage Fan Club De La Soul song because it's the one it's the one that stands over there in the corner on its own. Like we're not rock like that. We're just kind of indie rock, and that was fucking super cool.
I had a guy in a joint one time, cell next to me, and he used to yap about everything. He used to yap about the food, and yap about the guards, and yap about this, and yap about that, and yap all night long. Fucking yap. Like a fucking 747, you know what I mean? Like an engine stuck right between your ears, and you can't get away from it because he's right next to you, you know what I mean?
I don't think he's getting up.
I mentioned it up top, but your catalog has some monster hits in it. And a question that I have for you is, which record do you feel like is the bigger one? Jump Around or What It's Like?
I kind of got it. Album, like if you went by album sales, you would think you'd say What It's Like. Because I sold like almost 4 million records of that at the time. I mean, it's probably in extremes. I don't know what all that counts for now. And House Pain went platinum, and that single went platinum. But Jump Around, I mean, it's got to be in the top 10 all-time licensed hip-hop songs, if not higher. I mean, I haven't done any science. I'm not trying to be... I'm just saying, like, it's played at every goddamn sporting event. It's bananas, man. It's one of them things that you have to kind of almost disconnect yourself from to even understand it. Like it's like, wow. Like I never really took it in till really, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago when people started showing me that like that Wisconsin university and and then like all kinds of things like that just, it's like Louie or one of those type records. It's just there. It's part of the zeitgeist. I'm just glad I get the check.
If I had to explain to somebody what an anthem feels like Jump Around is up there with it. You know what I'm saying? But two more songs that were monsters too are Ends and Put Your Lights. My question for you is, looking at the industry now versus then, and looking at the tools that artists have now to, I guess, virality and all this stuff for songs. I'm answering the question in my mind as I'm asking it to you, but I'm still going to ask you anyway. Do you think that it's easier or harder for an artist nowadays to have a song that really impacts in a real substantial way?
Ooh, it's definitely not easier. It's
Yeah.
definitely not easier, man. I mean, there's 100 and something thousand songs a day that come out on these DSPs. And now you got what, AI to contend with? The thing about back then was, and those, the records you're talking about, one wasn't my master, was like, that was a Santana record. So that was a whole different machine, but he had that entire machine behind him at Arista for that album. They spent, it took a lot of money to make that much money. Tommy Boy hated Whitey Ford Sings the Blues when we turned it in. That's no lie. They did not know what I was doing, who I was trying to be. They weren't familiar with alternative or that side of, even college radio, even though they were masterful at college radio. But that one bled into the other a little bit. And we went out and toured hard, and that song caught people's attention, and the record became something. And then they started spending money, and like Ends, got a big video. I mean, that was, I don't know if Ends was as big as What It's Like, but we got a few hits out of that record.
For me, Whitey Ford is an Everlast album, but in some ways, it's like a character rebrand on some almost MF Doom shit in my mind. And I don't know if I'm just making this up or putting this on you, but my question is like, when you were doing that, where does Everlast stop and Whitey Ford begin? Or are they the same person? Or was it somewhat of a, I don't want to say character because I don't want it to seem like you were putting on an effect, but when I say character, I
Oh,
mean
but
like,
saying Doom is a very acute assessment because it was the era. That's kind of what MCs do. You know what I mean? Whitey Ford to me started, if you listen to that record, it's literally straight half hip hop. And that's
yep.
what we made. We started that record making a hip hop record. And Dante heard me playing the guitar one night and singing a few lyrics I had tucked away. And he was like, what the fuck was that? And that's what It's Like became. Again, right place, right time. And I had no title for the record at all, but it was the era of like, Wu-Tang all having mafioso names and comic book guy names. So it's like, I just think I was probably smoking and drinking one night and something said, what is this album? And I think I said, this album is like Whitey Ford singing the blues. And it was just like, bing. Oh, there it is. And there Whitey Ford was born,
Yeah.
Well, the rap Whitey Ford, the real guy was already doing his thing.
Your career has been genre fluid in a way where within your body of music, there's so many different styles of song, like from rap to singing to blues kind of vibes. Did you ever catch any flack from moving around from rap to rock?
Only flack I've ever seen, because I don't really read a lot of stuff, but I'll occasionally delve in. Is I see there's fans that wish I rapped more, but I mean, I made an album with Sick Jack and Divine Styler produced the whole thing. It was 10 years ago now, but and it's free. I think it's still available. It's on warpornindustries.com. The group was called War Porn Industries. I think I read something, I don't know how old it was, but I've only read it within the last 6 months or so, that Andre 3000 has said to somebody that was interviewing about it. He's like, if I had that in me, I'd be doing it right now. It's just not of interest to me at the moment.
Yeah.
And again, it's not something I can get in a room and be like, hey, write a rap for me. That's just not how that works. It's more of a sport to me or as much of a sport to me as an art. Right now, that where I'm at is where I'm at. And people that have tagged along get it. If you jumped in and out of the movie, it's probably hard to follow.
That's a good way to put it.
Make some noise for Everlast one time.
This brings us to the end of the interview. I have one more question. I call it the big playback. It's an opportunity to give an underappreciated or overlooked artist, album, or song some flowers. Just anything you want to shout out. Like I got one on deck. So based on doing my research for you and like, sitting around really thinking deeply about your career and the Rhyme Syndicate and one person that I feel like needs to be more discussed in hip hop is Ice-T. I feel like Ice-T at this point, he's transcended and he's become bigger than ever. But when you boil it down to brass tacks, man, that album Power, what are we talking about here, man? That brother put in some crazy work. So I just want to shout out Ice-T's career,
Yeah, I mean, he was an influential cat. And again, like I said, he had a great ear. And he was one of the first West Coast guys to like show major love to every East Coast crew or group that came through, and he made sure that, they knew that there were people here that dug what they did. The most obvious for me is If You Ain't Hip, Word Power by Divine Styler. I mean, that's an amazing record, and it's as strong to me today as it ever was. Rhyme Syndicate in the house,
Yeah. So Ice-T, Divine Styler, Rhyme Syndicate in the house, Everlast in the building. You know what I'm saying? Thank you so much for doing this interview. I really appreciate it. You can't imagine how happy I am to be talking to you right now.
I appreciate y'all having me. That I'm at the point where you leave for 8-9 years, you understand perfectly well there might not be a seat at the table for you. So anybody that has one for me, salute.
Everybody in the house!
Patience, man. Takes a lot of patience. Don't come out thinking you're gonna make it with your first little record, because it won't happen, man. It takes a long time. You gotta kick back, do your little prayer to God, and just stay with it. Be patient. Go get yourself a job working 9 to 5 until it happens, Don't expect it to happen overnight, because it never does for anybody.
The Almanac of Rap is created and hosted by Donwill. Executive producers are Donwill, Aisha Sese, and Travis Harris. The show is produced by Kobe Bafor. The show's associate producers are Brianna Harris, Tiara Jackson, and Javon Stevenson. The production coordinator is Bianca Ortiz. Audience development is handled by Hassan Spruill and Ashawn McCullen. Ad ops and audio marketing strategy is handled by Fabian Mickens. The show is directed by Travis Harris. Video editing was done by Kobe Bafor. Our social media producers are Taylor McGee and Michael Mays Jr. This episode of the show was written by Donwill. Art direction for the show was handled by Kaushik Kaladindi. Graphic design was done by Jefferson Harris. The show's camera operators are Travis Harris, Kobe Bafor, Trigger Bowden, and Compton Timberwolf. Compton's also our technical director and audio engineer. The show's theme music was provided by Donwill, with additional production in each episode by Von P.